If you are alive, then you more than likely have heard about Superman, arguably one of the most powerful and most popular character out there. However, there are so many different versions across different realities, iterations, and universes, which makes it kind of hard to decipher which one is the most powerful of them all. But undeniably, hands down, one of the top contenders has to be Superboy Prime, who is so insane, mentally and physically speaking, that entire armies of superheroes barely stand a chance against him. From casually wiping out dozens of Green Lanterns, to torturing a fifth-dimensional imp, to eventually tearing apart the Anti-Monitor, this guy has done it all and even more. Hey yo, what's poppin' ladies and Jimbos? It's been a while since I made a DC video, been a couple of months actually, so it's been a long time coming, but I'm back, you know? And others might be asking, Chuck, what gives? Where's the Godzilla video? Well, to be real with you guys, I am still working on it, and I want this video to be really good, to look professional, to be really polished and well researched. I do not want to give you guys half-assed content. And you know, there's just a lot of stuff to go over with this character because he has decades of history, and you know, just wait on it, okay? I promise you guys, the wait will be worth it. But aside from that, let's go ahead and get into why Superboy Prime is undeniably one of the most powerful versions of Superman out there. Just like the other Superman, Superboy Prime was born on Krypton as Kal-El, and before the planet was blown up, he was sent to Earth, where he was essentially found and raised by the Kents. However, the main key difference is that Superboy Prime was born on this world called Earth Prime, which is basically our Earth, where we see the DC Comics, the multiverse, and the superheroes as fiction. As far as we know, I mean, I don't know what the hell they even have at Area 51, but I'm not trying to get sniped here. For the most part, Clark had a regular life. He had no idea that he even had powers until he met up with his idol, being pre-Crisis Superman, who he met as a part of the Crisis. And for those that don't know, the Crisis on Infinite Earths event was essentially where the pre-Crisis continuity was ending and was being replaced by the post-Crisis one. Even in his very first appearance, Superboy Prime was shown as being really comparable in power and speed to pre-Crisis Superman. And this is really crazy to think about because pre-Crisis Superman is a really broken character, and he has a really good assortment of speed and power feats. And just to give you a couple of quick examples, he was shown even at a young age to traverse through millions of light years in mere moments. He was also shown as being comparable if not equal to the pre-Crisis Flash in speed. And most importantly, he could also withstand the magnetic repulsion flow of 100 galaxies, and he also endured a Big Bang. So not only was pre-Crisis Superman impressed by his speed and power, but during the whole Crisis on Infinite Earths event, he actually said to the other heroes, look, I can vouch for his power, meaning that he held him at a high pedestal. Oh, fun fact, unlike the other Superman, including pre-Crisis Superman, Superboy Prime is unaffected by fake red solar radiation, which can typically drain the powers of Kryptonians. However, he is still affected by real red solar radiation, which didn't work out too well for him down the line. Okay, so let's switch back to the Crisis on Infinite Earths event, where a bunch of crazy shit went down. So this big bad, known as the Anti-Monitor, came from the antimatter universe, and his mission was to wipe out the entire DC multiverse and reshape it into his own image. During his conquest, he wiped out a nearly infinite amount of universes, killed Supergirl, and also wiped out Earth Prime, which made Superboy Prime really upsetty. No, but for real, what to take from this is that Superboy Prime, even though he was still inexperienced with his powers, was still shown as being comparable to other pre-Crisis superheroes, and also endured attacks from the Anti-Monitor. After the Crisis, Earth Prime was no more, so Superboy had nowhere else to go. Luckily though, he was met by Alexander Luthor Jr., who played a really important part in the Crisis, so he took him and Golden Age Superman to this pocket dimension where they could observe and look at the post-Crisis universe, or multiverse in this case, unfold. Although Alexander Luthor Jr. was seen as a hero as he did help in defeating the Anti-Monitor, he was one of the people directly responsible for turning Superboy Prime from being a typical superhero into being a full-on psychopathic killer. It also didn't help that Superboy Prime was looking at these heroes do sketchy things, so they would fight amongst themselves or even abandon their moral code at times and kill other people outright. So Superboy Prime was like, these heroes are really not that different from villains. I mean, they're fighting each other, they're killing other people, so therefore these other heroes should be destroyed and I should be the only Superman, or everything should go back to the way it used to be before the crisis began. Okay, so back to the feats. Alexander Luthor and Superboy Prime were like, we should just make our own DC multiverse, like let's make everything right again. And in order to do this, Superboy had to escape this dimensional shell that they were in, and just by punching this really hard, he was causing retcons and rewrites all throughout the DC multiverse. To give you an example, Jason Todd, one of the Robins that was killed off by the Joker, had been brought back to life, and a lot of other shenanigans also went down because of Prime just punching this really hard. And here is the even crazier part about this, okay? Superboy had no access to yellow sunlight for who knows how long, you know, it's implied to be a long time, and he still did this. He retconned DC history while weakened, which is easily one of the most outrageous feats in DC history. Although, let's be real here, the real MVP of all feats is when Batman kicked the Spectre and the whole universe got wiped out. Do you guys remember that? Because it happened, I mean, but come on guys, I would never lie to you. Okay, no, but actually Batman did kick the Spectre though. Okay, let's move on though. Although it took him several hours and some help from Alexander Luthor at the end, Superboy Prime was finally able to break his way into the multiverse where he was gonna do a lot of tasks that were set out for him to do. One of these was no biggie, it was to reshift the center of the universe, which Prime managed to do before the Guardians even realized what was going on. And Guardians are typically faster and more powerful than Green Lanterns, who can react at quintillions of times the speed of light, so Prime did this in a really fast time frame and was more than likely manipulating the space-time fabric of the universe. Eventually, Prime met up with his counterpart being Superboy, who was like really weak and lame. We don't have to go over him, but essentially, he was really envious of him because he had the life that he used to have before it was all wiped out, and on top of that, he thought he was like a waste of potential because he had these superpowers, yet didn't really do anything with them. He wasn't helping out other heroes or doing typical Good Samaritan stuff. And of course, to no one's surprise, a battle broke out between these two in which Superboy Prime was absolutely dominating Superboy so badly that he called in for backup. So look at it this way, okay? You're doing a 1v1 against somebody, you beat the hell out of them so badly that they call in for help for over 50 people to gang up on you. That is basically what happened to Superboy Prime in this situation. The Teen Titans, the Justice Society, and the Doom Patrol all went Detroit mode and jumped Superboy Prime, trying to overwhelm him, trying to, beat the hell out of him, but it didn't work out too well for them because all they would do is unleash the monster that would later become the psychopathic killer that we know Superboy Prime to be. Obviously though, this heavy amount of stress and combat is gonna make Superboy Prime try to lash out in ways that he didn't think was possible, and so he did not know his own power and was quote-unquote accidentally killing people by ripping them apart. And honestly, it kind of reminds me of the whole Llamas with Hats video where it's like, Carl, that kills people. It's like Superboy Prime didn't know that ripping people apart was gonna kill them. I don't know. I don't know how he would think that, but regardless, Prime was really overwhelmed. He was horrified. He was like, you guys are making me do this. I did not mean to do this. I did not mean to kill people. I did not mean to be evil like you guys. So he thought really negatively of the heroes, and in this case, they were like, this guy is really crazy. We need either the Flash family or the Phantom Zone to put him down. If you have watched my Doomsday video, you might already know that the Phantom Zone is this dimension where there is no time and space, and you essentially do not have a physical form. But Superboy Prime is essentially a honey badger. He don't give a shit, and he broke his way out of it by punching it. So let me reiterate it for you, okay? You do not have a physical form in this dimension, but this guy physically broke his way through it. That is crazy. And as an after effect of this punch, he also managed to retcon Beast Boy once more, so even while in mid-combat, this guy is altering DC history. Eventually, the speedsters, the Flash family like Bart Allen, Wally West, and Jay Garrick came to face off against Superboy Prime, and even then, Prime was able to keep up against all of them, even though a typical Flash is usually faster than Superman and characters of that caliber. It was also stated that not a single one in the Flash family, not Bart, not Wally, and not Jay, could have been able to catch up to Superboy Prime in time, until they decided to give Bart Allen the entirety of the Speed Force. Then and only then was Bart Allen finally able to catch up to Superboy Prime, and he also managed to trap him into the Speed Force, which did stop him, albeit momentarily. Even though it took him multiple years, Superboy Prime managed to break his way out of the Speed Force, somehow. I mean, they don't explain it to us, but do you really need an explanation? It's Superboy Prime, like, come on. Prime also showcased that he isn't just a dumb brute who punches things, as he actually showcased some knowledge and technology because he created his own solar suit, which supplies him with a steady amount of solar energy. The good thing is though, that Superboy Prime shows no discrimination because he also beat up a lot of villains, and he eventually encountered Black Adam. And the nasty part about it is that when Black Adam punched him, Superboy Prime said that his punches and magic tickled him. Like, what? Black Adam is so powerful that he's been able to match, if not overwhelm, post-crisis Superman and also break the arm of Captain Marvel. The actual strong Captain Marvel, not the weak-ass one, but yeah, that's insane. Eventually, Prime had to face off against post-crisis Superman, Supergirl, and Power Girl, who has a really big, heart. Yeah, exactly. What did you think I was gonna say? We gotta keep it PG here. Once again, they proceeded to gang up on a teenager with an assload of Green Lantern Corps, which were very easily wiped out by Prime.
Another one. Another one. Another one. Another one. Another one. And another one.
At this point, Prime was feeling so overwhelmed that he really had no choice but to try to cause a big bang by rushing towards Oa. Nobody could really catch up to him until the Green Lantern set out a 300-mile thick wall of pure damn willpower, which of course Prime managed to break through. The plan at this point was for Golden Age and post-crisis Superman to rush Prime towards a red star to drain his powers. And even though these two Supermen are really powerful in their own right, they could not do anything individually against Prime, but once they pushed him to a red star, that is when they had a really intense battle. This resulted in Superman being knocked out, Golden Age Superman dying of his injuries, and Superboy being placed into a prison. The Guardians knew damn well that Prime was not to be taken lightly, so they placed his prison cell near a red star to keep his powers in check, and it was meant to be guarded by 50 Green Lanterns at all times, where they could not sleep, eat, drink, or do anything else. Instead of feeling worried, Prime simply smiled, etched a Superman symbol on his chest, and remarked that he's gotten out of worse places before, which, I mean, he has. He survived the stench of Anime Expo. Okay guys, relax, it's a joke, but I mean, there is some truth to it, let's be real here. Anyways, back to Prime. He was eventually freed by the Sinestro Corps, the Yellow Lanterns, who are one of the main enemies to the Green Lanterns. Once again, Prime found himself with a brand new solar suit, except this time he was under the command of the Anti-Monitor. You might be asking yourself, why would Prime ally himself with the person who wiped out his universe to begin with? Well, Prime was doing a 200 IQ big boy brain play in which he was going to wipe out the heroes by helping out the villains, and then he was going to eventually kill the Anti-Monitor himself. Since the heroes had a lot on their plate, they really had no other choice but for the Guardians to bring upon their ultimate weapon, that being Sodam Yat with the power of Ion, which is the willpower entity and the opposite of Parallax, the entity of fear. Since he is a Daxamite, Sodam Yat shares a lot of the characteristics and abilities that a Kryptonian has, with one exception being that he is weak to lead instead of kryptonite, which is a pretty lame weakness, I'm not gonna lie. The main reason as to why Sodam Yat is like an absolute monster is because he is really the only person up to this point that could actually fight on par with Superboy Prime one-on-one for a long period of time. These two had a pretty insane battle. They were going blow for blow, they were fighting on par with each other, until Prime decided to use his weakness of lead against him, which eventually gave him the win. Now you might be like, oh, Prime's like a dirty cheater pumpkin eater, but keep in mind he was fighting like an army of superheroes and villains before this, so it wasn't like he was in tip-top shape either. After Soda Miyato was defeated, the Green Lanterns really had no other choice but to try to detonate a bomb that was stated as being powerful enough to wipe out the entire Milky Way galaxy. Upon detonating it, a large portion of the Sinestro Corps were wiped out, the Anti-Monitor was heavily injured, and Superboy Prime was killed once and for all. Right? No, he was actually relatively unharmed, and he simply proceeded to rip apart the Anti-Monitor and kill him then and there, as he had planned to do to begin with. The Guardians at this point were getting really desperate, so one of them decided to pull like a Chiaotzu self-destruct YOLO on Superboy Prime in attempts to kill him once and for all. And you would think that has to be like the final nail in the coffin, but no, instead of killing Prime, it only ended up making him more powerful. Yeah, dude, this guy does not want to die. Due to the energy that his body absorbed, Superboy Prime appeared more like an adult, and so he named himself Superman Prime. With this newfound power, Superman Prime was able to punch his way into the 5th dimension to kidnap Mr. Mixi Pitalik. He also managed to stand on the Source Wall itself without getting stuck to it, even though really powerful beings such as Darkseid, or at least an Avatar, got stuck to it. And even crazier still is that he managed to wipe out portions of it as well, even though the Source Wall is extremely durable. Alright, so now we get to one of Superman Prime's better feats, which is when he managed to torture Mr. Mixi and make him feel threatened. Although Superman Prime did have his magic taken away, even after he got it back, Mr. Mixi was like really convinced and scared that Prime would be capable of killing him. Keep in mind that Mr. Mixi is a casual infinite multiversal buster because in World's Funniest, just by play fighting with Batmite, he destroyed the entire multiverse and was ready to do it again. And even if you don't want to count that storyline as canon, even though it would be through Hypertime, which includes all possible realities, in the Emperor Joker storyline, when Joker had the power of Mr. Mixi, it was stated by Spectre that he would be able to wipe out the entire infinite multiverse, at least on a 5th dimensional scale. So yeah, Prime might not be as strong as a full power Mr. Mixi, but he should be at least relative to him if he made him fear for his life. So now we get to the part of the video that I really wanted to get to, which is when Superman Prime faces off against Monarch, who I would have to say is one of the most disgustingly overpowered, nasty, gross characters that I have ever read about in my life. Monarch is a character that has way too many feats to cover into one video, but to give you a quick too long didn't read, this guy fought against over 40 alternate versions of himself at the same time, and he fucking won! Like, what? But wait, there's more, because Monarch was also ready to throw hands against an army of monitors, even though just one monitor is already so powerful that multiple Superman tier level characters could not do anything against them. Even as fast as the Flash is, even he got speed blitzed by a monitor. So these guys are ridiculously powerful and fast, and Monarch was still ready to go in on them. So yeah, I really cannot think of anything grosser than that, apart from maybe the animation in Dragon Ball Super Episode 5, but I mean, you'll let me know what else you think is grosser than that. Although the battle between Monarch and Superman Prime seemed to be pretty equal-sided, Monarch was actually causing Prime so much pain that he lashed out and was really pissed off at him, and he said that he was going to kill him to death. Which actually reminds me of what Shido said in Fate, that people die if they are killed, which, wow, the more you know. So even though they seemed pretty evenly matched, Superman Prime really couldn't find a way to overwhelm Monarch, so he decided to destroy his containment suit, which has the power of a Big Bang. And surprise surprise, the energy that was released caused a chain reaction which wiped out the entire universe that they were fighting in, and you would think, okay, Prime has to die now, right? But no, it only ended up knocking him out, and basically warping him somewhere else. After that, Prime reverts back to normal and he doesn't really do anything too special. I mean, he was able to withstand the effects of the emotional entity. He was also able to withstand the magic of Mordru, a being who is so powerful that he's been able to fight on par with, if not defeat, Dr. Fate. Eventually, he also meets up with the Time Trapper who, surprise surprise, turned out to be himself from the future, and we really don't have to go over the Time Trapper because he has a really convoluted history and identity, but essentially, Superboy Prime is like a living, sentient timeline which explains as to why he's really hard to kill. But now we get to the really important question as to how powerful and how fast is Superboy Prime really? As I explained in my Doomsday video months back, Green Lanterns are able to travel from the center of the universe to the edge of it within 10 hours, which has been calculated to being easily quadrillions of times the speed of light. But honestly, this is a lowball because Superboy Prime is more than likely a high-tier immeasurable speed being, because he is much faster than the entire Flash family individually, Golden Age Superman, Pre-Crisis Superman, Post-Crisis Superman, all of the Green Lanterns, and many of these other characters who either have feats of traveling through time through pure speed alone, or at least scale to characters who can do the same thing, and I will be putting a lot of these feats in the description below if you want to check them out. Seeing as how he is more powerful than many of these Golden Age, Pre-Crisis, and Post-Crisis characters, this would easily make him low multiversal bare minimum. In his Superman Prime state, he would still be immeasurable, however to a much higher degree, seeing as how he was able to keep up in combat with Monarch, who is much more powerful than the individual Superboy Prime and all of the speedsters. Due to being relative to Mr. Mixi in his amped state, this could easily make him like a high-tier low multiversal being, or you could even argue mid-multiversal plus. Due to having feats and scaling from all of these characters that I've mentioned, he should be highly resistant to many forms of matter manipulation, mind manipulation, soul manipulation, death manipulation, magic, and so on. And if you want to check out these feats or read the issues yourself, I will be putting them in the description down below, so yeah, there you go. Generally, Superboy Prime is easily one of the most powerful versions of Superman out there, and I mean, there's very few that can even contend with him for that title, but I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun doing it. I will be doing more DC videos in the future, but anyways, thanks a lot for watching, and I will catch you, thoughties, next time. Peace out.